Namaste guys, welcome to Filmy Bites with UV, a show where we talk about some wonderful filmmakers, review, rate their work. But before we start, I would like you to hit that subscribe button so that you can get all updates as we post them. With that note, without any further ado, let's get right into the show. The very first movie that we are going to review in Filmy Bites with UV today is Minute, To Live or Die. The movie with the screen time of 7 minutes 52 seconds is a lockdown experimental hosted on Morat Films YouTube channel. The film basically is about this guy who is stuck at his house during the lockdown and is suffering from bipolar disorder. As days pass by, the fellow starts facing a lot of practical issues like his funds are getting drained, and due to his decisions in the past, he is not able to find family support. And worst part is, during this period, his girlfriend chose to end this relationship as she is not able to take any more of his bipolar disorder after effects. This will break the guy's heart. Now, in this situation, what is this guy going to do? How will the story end? Is the climax given to the story. Now moving on to the technical details. The movie is written by Mary Anthony and screenplay is done by Saif Attar. Direction of the movie is handled by both these people, both Mary Anthony and Saif Attar. The movie really is a wonderful experimental. When it comes to screenwriting, writing an entire script with only one character and one location with absolutely no dialogues for the lead really is mind-blowing thing to attempt. However, I think that they should have concentrated more on the minor details of the storyline. For example, the guy having a gun at his house trying to kill himself looks more or less like a suicidal tendency than bipolar disorder. It is points like this that will let your audience to question your movie, and that will damage the depth of the film. Moving on to the camera. Cinematography and sound by Sharik Attar is actually decent enough to capture exactly what is required. But at times I see the frame was too shaky. This is because they might have used a very small camera or maybe a mobile phone to shoot the entire movie. But then that gives them an added advantage where they could have tried some very unusual or a great different angles that you cannot do with a bigger camera or DSLR. But then I see they did not attempt to experiment with their camera. If only they could have done that, this visual would be very fresh and it would have been more impressive to watch this movie. Moving on to editing. Editing is done by Mr. Mohit Kolte. Cuts of the film were really okay. I was a bit disappointed with the transitions, as most of the times the watch or a blank transition was not really working out with the movie, and that was literally disconnecting me from the movie very often. Makers chose to give a close of a mobile conversation, which was really not working out. That is because one, the message that you have is not one message, it is a conversation, and one should read entire conversation to understand why the last message have popped in. When you show me a mobile phone in a frame, it is very hard for me to read, as that will blur out the ends of the mobile, or maybe when he starts reading it, he may get disconnected from the feel of the film. To avoid this, I think they should have given a pop message where each message pops out and viewer will understand that he has to read this particular pop message so that he can understand the information. I think giving a close-up of mobile screen and the conversation is a backfire for the movie. Speaking of color, color of the movie is not balanced and it looks very raw, which might be a good thing, but then for this movie, which is emotionally driven and has only one emotion, I think they should have balanced the color. Sound and color are the two prime elements that you have to be more careful when you want to make your movie with one emotion from first frame to last frame. It is these two that will decide the mood of your audience and keeps him attached to your movie. When the sound and the color are not balanced, I think that is a disconnect from your movie. Long story short, this is a wonderful experiment. Well done screenplay. If only they could have concentrated a bit more on the storyline and attention to the detail and a bit more on upgrading their skills, I'm sure they are going to give us some wonderful outputs. Waiting for your next movie in our review show. Here at Filmy Bites with you, we rate this film a 2.5 star in our show. All the best.
Minutes. Minutes is a psychotic genre movie which you usually see when you come across a lockdown concept. There is a guy who is trying to reach out the outer world, but unfortunately he is being denied. So what does that turn in his life is the movie. The director has cleverly utilized minimal dialogues in this movie. It was more of emotions or action in it, or it's more of a silent kind of thing where you have to enact everything, which also takes a challenge for the cast who is being there. He has to personally convince you through his actions. He has to personally take that body language and do that, which I felt that was little bit down. Few highly emotion scenes, those kind of was little bit let down, especially like there is a sequence where this guy is getting ready for an interview. At the same time his girlfriend calls, so he is getting confused whether to pick the call or to attend the interview. There you could have utilized the tensed or tight kind of shots where he looks very tense, whether like to and fro, what he needs to do, what he need, like you can do the nail biting or getting confused, little bit getting intense in those kind of things, kind of sequences which were there, which I felt was a little bit down in it. So these were the few things which I noticed, and I hope these kind of things will help you out, and we like to see more projects from you guys. With this, I rate this short film a 2 out of 5. Good luck.
The next movie that we are going to review is Second Chance. Second Chance is a Telugu inspirational short film with a screen time of 17 minutes 18 seconds. The film basically talks about the conditions of a person who wants to commit suicide. The film is hosted on SMD Creations YouTube channel. The film is about this young man who lost his loved one recently and is very upset with the life. The doctor who is treating this guy advises him to move on in his life, as it is senseless to wait for someone who is dead and there is no possible way that they are going to come back. But then, not able to accept the real facts of life, the young man walks away from his doctor. As the young man is struggling with this situation, he accidentally meets people and faces few situations that will teach him a bigger lesson in life. But then, will he ever take this lesson? Will he understand the facts of life? What is the situation that will teach him this true facts of life? And what are those facts that are going to help us understand the message given in this movie? Is the end of the movie. Now let's look at the technical details of the film. Written and directed by Mr. Arvind, the story sure is the most strongest crisis that we face in present day. However, while I was watching this movie, I was literally feeling the film is too lagged. Actor was not really into the character. I see some forced expressions, but then I could really make out when he is getting disconnected from his characteristics. There was no chemistry between these two actors, and that can be seen on screen. The screenplay of the movie may be very straight, but then somewhere I felt a bit confused. Suddenly, the turn of events come to a sudden end with a oral message. Whenever I see a movie ending with a oral message, I personally think that the filmmaker was not unsure about his strength to deliver message through visual, or he does not believe the strength of his point that he took to make this movie. I suggest makers to have a workshop before you do a movie as strong as this. The actor should understand the gravity of the subject and his characteristic so that he can get involved into the movie. That will result in a great performance where you do not have to end your movie with a oral message, and his performance will talk every single message that you want to deliver to your audience. Moving on to camera, cinematography is done by Mr. Raj Babu Shah, assisted by Mr. Sai Kesari. Did give some nice shots. I think a few more close-ups should have been taken. I see most of the times the frame was either having a dull focus or a complete out focus of the object. This is because maybe they were using a viewfinder to focus their object. You should understand when you are using a viewfinder, that might not be the exact sharpness that you want, as the viewfinder can be adjusted according to your eyesight. And when you are looking at viewfinder, you are only looking at your eye range and not the focus range itself. I really loved the lighting they have used, but then the vivid color balancing really did not work out well with the light setup, resulting in a more yellowish color tone of the movie. And maybe this was done to balance the complete movie, but then they should have tried some teal and orange or any other colors other than vivid lighting. The show could have experimented with different angles and movement shots, but whatever they did was very decent. Moving on to editing. Editing is done by Mr. Raj Babu Shah, and it was really good. He did manage to give some different color and some very nice cuts. But then I personally felt the effects here used is really disturbing the eye of the audience. I personally think a bit more balance in color is required. I personally think the movie's length is too long and could be made very sharp and precise to the point. That would have made this movie much interesting to watch. In short, the movie is based on a very strong crisis that we face today. But then, if only makers would have concentrated a bit more on the storyline with a concentrated screenplay and very sharp editing, this movie would have gone to the next level. Appreciating the whole team's efforts and expecting them to make much better movies, here at Filmy Bites with UV, we rate this movie a 3-star in our show.
Second chance. Second chance, as the movie says, everyone needs a second chances in his life. What happens if you get a second chance? Will you overcome whatever you have missed in the first, or you will continue to improve from the previous ones, or will you grab those opportunity if we give you a second chance? So those are the kind of things which revolves around when you notice about this particular topic. And yes, similar to that, there is a person who is having some tough times during some relationships. So he gets counseled by his friend, and the friend also persuades him to leave it across, but still no, he's not able to come out of it. What happens next is the rest of the story. The story screenplay are decent enough, so does the other technical stuffs. There could be few things which could have been added, or they could have tightened the timeline a bit. Little bit crisper editing here and there could have done much more good or enhanced this movie to a next level. With this, I rate this short film a 1.5 out of 5. Good luck.
Now that brings us to Filmy Bites with UV, Foreign Film of the Week. Now in this week's Foreign Film category, we have a Mexican short series plot comedy, Jobs for Zombies, The Screenwriter. With a screen time of 8 minutes 53 seconds, the film is an extreme experimental, hosted on Experiencia Visual. Now the story starts with this producer who wants to make an extreme zombie movie, as he wants the movie to be more violent and very extreme. He appoints a writer who himself is a zombie. The zombie is given a room where he has to write the story. He is trying everything and is not able to find an inspiration. But then the zombie finds his inspiration in a most unique way possible and finishes his script. Now, how did the zombie find his inspiration? Did the producer like the story? If he did they make a movie? All these things are the most darkest comic ending given to this movie. Moving on to technical part, the film is totally a one-man show. Writing, cinematography, editing, direction is done by Esteban. The man is multi-talented. The movie is different from any zombie comedy I have ever seen. The movie really gives you a different experience altogether. If you are a fan of zombie or zombie comedy, I think this is a must in your list. The camera and editing work of the movie are really good. But then when it comes to color, it was not really pleasant to my eyes. I personally felt it was really a bit too vivid to look at. But then maybe they wantedly gave this color as they wanted their movie to look unique, and maybe they wanted to add some flavor to this zombiness of the movie. In short, this movie is a different kind of zombie movie, but then I wouldn't let my kids to watch this movie. The team is extremely talented and really hope they are going to come up with some more content that is as fun as this is. Wishing them all the best. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, we rate this flick a 3.5 star in our show. All the best.
Jobs for Zombie. As the title says, it's a really a beautiful way, which you don't think often. Generally, when you see as a zombie film, it will be like, a person is affected by zombie. How it spreads out to the city, how it becomes a disaster. Those kind of concept is being generally which we see in this zombie. But the director has thought of a different angle of the same concept. How a life of a zombie would be. How creative a zombie can be is this entire movie. I completely, love the concept of this particular movie. The arts which was involved, the camera angles, the tone, editing, the casting, each and every part of this particular making has justified their role. Personally, I love this movie and I recommend you also to watch it. With this, I rate this flick a 4 out of 5. Good luck.
So guys, that brings us to the end of the show. Hope you enjoyed our show. You can watch all these movies that we just reviewed by hitting the link given below in the description. You can also be a part of our WhatsApp group. We have given the link in the description. And if you are a filmmaker and wants us to review your movie in our show, all you have to do is get into our description, go to social networking links given below, hit one of the social networking link and inbox us your movie link along with a poster and write to us that we can review your movie in our show, and your movie will be reviewed and a link will be updated to you. With that note guys, we are going to end the show. Till we meet next week with some more wonderful filmmakers and their work, this is me, Uday, signing off. Namaskar.